Hello, welcome back to another pen talk. Thanks for tuning in. Yes, another Chinese pen. I'm just on a roll. I just find it extremely intriguing and interesting to look at these examples of pens that share pieces, combine different elements. I can only imagine how many manufacturing places there are in China making fountain pens, hundreds, thousands. A couple main companies like Shanghai Hero Pen Company, etc., probably controlling a good portion of the marketplace, but it still leaves room for smaller people. Like I think I mentioned before, you got 1 billion people using fountain pens, or a large number of people using fountain pens. It's a great market. And also you have Western people coming over there to take advantage of the less costly manufacturing costs. And they leave behind expertise, knowledge, and people see it and they pick up on it and they go, gee, I could do that, or I could do something different, or I could make it better. So here was the pen. Nice packaging. I mean, I have not seen this exact packaging before. It may be out there on other pens. I'm certain that if a viewer knows of that, they'll let me know and let us know. Cover just comes off. The pen was held securely in place by this simple little piece of plastic which slides off, and we have the pen. So why did I buy this pen? Well, that's the piston filling mechanism, which has become quite popular in a number of different pens. It's called a Wingsung 5502 or 5502 or 5502. There's no branding on it to say who made this pen. Maybe that's in that Chinese there before the model number, but I've not looked about trying to decipher that. Very clear, everything is clear. We've seen clear piston fillers, so it's always interesting when they use not a clear piston filling mechanism. This insert here, which looks very familiar, let's bring over the one it looks familiar with. Doesn't that look familiar? I mean, it's done differently, but it's still a design element that serves some function, but I'm certainly not enthralled with it. It works. It's a clip. It's a wire form clip. It unscrews. I kind of expected the cap to pull off. Yeah, it's a few turns. Then we have a black feed. It's a classic pilot, I call it wing style nib that fits into grooves in the feed. This is all one piece here, similar to some of the Twisbees. No ring here, similar to Twisbees. Piston filler. It is the kind that locks in place with little grooves, so in order to turn the piston, you pull the knob out, you hear that secure click, and now the piston will move. And then when you're done, you press it in place. So that is certainly secure. That's not going to turn on its own. If you do turn it without taking it off, then you unscrew this metal ring and you can take the whole thing apart. So it's very easy to disassemble without tools, which is something Chinese manufacturers have been doing on almost all their piston fillers. So I think that's one of those places where they go, I look at that, I can do better. And they did. All of these piston fillers seem to work very, very well. I've not had any issues with them. If I do have any concerns or challenges, I will take them apart, put extra silicone grease on them and reassemble them, and that generally makes them work even better. Some of them come with a lot of silicone grease on them to begin with. This seems to be not the case with this pen. So that's where we're at. Nice solid band here at the bottom of the cap, which is also nice. So we need to take a look at one feature. How does it post? Sadly, it posts like a lot of them do. Very short. It fits on that ring, so you don't have to worry about when you post it turning the piston knob and squirting ink out, which some other pens will do. But it does make for a long pen. It's not that heavy, so it could work that way. If you like to post, you can post it, but you know, it's certainly more than long enough to fit easily in the hand. The section has that Lamy design with it, with 3 flat spots, and the nib and feed seem to be keyed when I took it apart to go back into place to always be aligned like it should with those sculptured, with the sculptured section. So we'll take a look at the parts, put some ink in it, and see how that extra fine nib writes. Here we have the 5502 partially disassembled. I'm not going to remove the piston. The section here is molded in one piece, something that some TWSBIs do. Yeah, this looks like your classic Wing Sung 698 piston. A little bit different design here on that metal ring, but you know, these all work well. There's no reason to do anything with them unless you need to. Yep. Yeah, the cap is nice and clean. There is that metal screw in there, which we may have concerns about that corroding or rusting. Yeah, the clip is interesting, very functional. We recognize that from other pens. Nice heavy-duty ring here at the bottom with your identifying features. And I pulled out the nib and feed. This is one way of cleaning them off. So I dumped these in a soapy ammonia solution to make certain they're clean before we put them back into the pen. And this is your classic pilot design nib, you know, your Metropolitan, your 78G. A lot of those pens. This is an extra fine nib. It's generic. It's not marked, which is interesting because, you know, Wing Sung generally is pretty good at identifying and labeling their pens. So in this case, this is kind of generic. It's called a Wing Sung in the auction. So we'll reassemble it, and I'll use the original nib because that's what most people end up doing, but just know that it's easy to swap if you want to swap, and I have a number of different pilot style nibs from some stubs, and I'm getting some ground, so we'll see how they turn out. Well, what ink to put in? I just picked up this ink. It's nice to have a local store, the pen thing in town that handles ink, so I like teal ink, so I figured I'd give that one a try. Here's my color card on the Diamine teal ink, and not an ink I'm a big fan of. It's pretty boring color. I mean, I have a lot of teals that really pop, have some shading to them, maybe a little sheen, but this just doesn't do it for me. It is a dark ink, so that's nice. It's hard for me to really see the blue-green that I expect to see in a teal. Very muted colors. And we have some nice light coming in, so it's not the light. What's nice about the way this piston filler works is, as you can see, I brought it up less than halfway, but it's still secure and there's no gap here. A lot of other piston designs, especially ones from very expensive pen manufacturers, you either have it all the way up or you have threads exposed. You know, this design works very well. 1, 2, a little bit over 2 turns. As I mentioned, it fits well in the hand without posting, and when you post it, it's longer. We'll give you those weights. Pen is not heavy, so there's no question about the weights. This grip is not my favorite. It's small, and with those cutouts in it, it's even smaller. So it just doesn't feel good in the hand to me. I mean, this nib is smooth. I mean, an extra fine is still never going to feel like a piece of glass. It's just not my idea of a nib that I enjoy. I did have some skips up here because you need pressure on this nib. And you need consistent pressure. If you let off at all, if you have it at a slightly off angle, you're going to get a skip. So it's a kind of nib you have to learn to use. A lot of people like extra fine nibs, so if that's what you like, then this is certainly might be a nib you would consider. So one might ask, is this a wet nib? You can lay down a decent patch of ink, but I wouldn't consider this a wet nib, and this is also not a wet ink. So putting those two together, there it had, it dried a little bit less time. I got a little bit more ink down. But like you say, you got to put pressure on this to get it to really work well. And with this extra fine nib on some paper, with that type of pressure, you're going to be pulling up little bits of paper. So that's another reason why I'm not really a fan of this pen. So how would I rate this pen? Hold on to your pants. I give it a 3. I just don't find anything of value in this pen. Like I say, the grip is small and those facets don't really let you play around with it. It's something that over a short period of time I don't feel comfortable using it. You know, a quick note it would work for, but not over time. And I just find the design to be not really that functional. You know, maybe it's something that might appeal to some of you, but it certainly does not appeal to me. And there's a number of other piston filler Chinese pens that cost a lot less money than this one. I did find an auction with it less than I paid, so here's that in case you're interested. But, you know, to me, a Wingsung 3008 is a significantly better pen than this one, and it costs significantly less. So that's why I can't give it much higher rating. It is a nice nib, so from that viewpoint, if you like these extra fine pilot style nibs, then maybe this is a pen that you might like. So thank you for watching. We've reached the end. May you have many great writing experiences. Enjoy this wonderful world of pens that we find ourselves in with a great variety of nibs, inks, and paper. Till next time, bye.